Hello, I'm Corey Andrew Powell, and I'm joined today by Elisa Stancil Levine, and she is a decorative artist who is a single mother, and she built a business into a nationally recognized company with projects published in every major magazine in the US. Her new memoir, This or Something Better, takes an unflinching look at the early abuse she endured and its effect on her life. Elisa, welcome to Motivational Mondays.
Hello, Corey. Thank you so much.
Yes, well, it's our pleasure to have you here. And to dive right in, your new memoir, This or Something Better, as I mentioned, I am curious to know what inspired you to write such a personal book.
I must say, I started thinking that I would be a writer and writing my story when I was 8.
Hmm.
And at that point, and sort of a through line through the whole 72 years I've been alive, the idea was really just to share what happened to me and hope that it inspired other people, motivated others. Mainly to understand that they have a deep essence within them, and no matter what happens, that is still present and always will be present. And so carry the flag for this essence and be who you truly are deep inside. And so this trauma aspect that's in the book is really true for me and could be true for any number of people, different forms of it. But certainly, we hear these words trust and, individuation and intimacy. But in my experience, all these things I found in nature, but only, unfortunately, for me, in nature for the many, many years of my early life. And it wasn't until I had my son as a teen mother that I discovered what trust could look and feel like. And through that and his help, it really helped me evolve.
Yeah.
But I must also just suggest that coming through what you experience is a long process, and it's magical, and it can be really fascinating. It's almost kaleidoscopic. So if you are considering reviewing your life based on things that seem to be missing, don't lose heart, please. Is my theory is that you can grow and change and evolve and deepen and get more close to your own source through study and caring for yourself.
So many people get stuck in a rut, obviously, when we have a situation, something negative, and we very much sort of define ourselves by the adversity that we've endured versus trying to get beyond it. And I know for you, you definitely had some very specific traumas that you had to get through. And as candidly or as quietly as you'd like to share, if you could explain a little bit of some of the early, or maybe the main sort of prominent trauma that you experienced that really sort of set your life on a specific course.
I think as a tiny child, I was, corralled by my grandmother when we were staying there. There was many cousins together, but she had chosen me to really take out her own angst. Apparently, of course, I'm now as a mature person, I'm discussing it, but as a tiny child, I'm the one, I'm it. She would get into a mood, and then she would grab me up occasionally, not and very randomly, and put me in the wash tub and scrub me down and call me a murderer. Now I'm 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old. Finally, I'm 5 years old. And I say to her while we're alone, a rare occurrence, why, Grandma, do you call me a murderer? I'm just a little child. And she's driving the car ahead of me, and it just says, well, doesn't matter. You're a Catholic, and Catholics killed millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people during the Crusades, and it's just like you did it yourself.
Mm.
Now, Corey, in 1953 or 55, whenever, I had no knowledge of the Crusades, so it just made no sense.
Yeah.
And I had to just put that away. And I had already known, I can't tell my father about my grandmother. I mean, she's God in his hierarchy, right? That's his mother. I can't tell on her, so I have no one to tell. Simultaneously, there was other sexual abuse that was happening from her husband, who was a step grandfather who happened to be a pedophile. Again, at 5, you don't know these words, you don't know these things, you don't know what's happening. All that just confused my whole early life. But the saving grace from the very beginning was my first memory, which was that I was alone outside, another place I love to be, alone outside still.
Hmm.
And I suddenly realized that I'm on the planet. I looked down, I saw my shoes, I knew those were my shoes. I reached up to like welcome myself to the planet. I swear it was just like this. I don't even know what words I was thinking or feeling, but I realized I'm too little to even, I have no words. I'm just a little child again. So I just like am gleeful, and the trees are waving, the birds are flying, everything is just welcoming me, right? So no matter what happens in any other case, I have nature and this connection and this sense of belonging that gives me this deep trust over there. Uh, Now, that doesn't fix everything, okay? So as time passed, there were other challenges, and the challenges I kept trying to meet in my own way from whatever was close at hand. I will go out running, I will do this, I will do that, to solve it, but not ever understanding that I needed to deepen my own ability to trust humans.
Hmm.
That's just a question we all have to grapple with, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. I do wonder when I hear you talk about your grandmother, uh, uh, do you think at that time she was dealing with, that sounds like a mental illness to me. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but that doesn't
Right.
sound like like a coherent sort of situation for a grown woman and a child to be in, but it doesn't seem stable mentally when she would call you a murderer as a 2-year-old. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
was that part of the equation that you guys would find out later or no?
Well, yes, and not exactly. No one ever accused her or diagnosed her, certainly. And she was highly regarded in the community,
Mm,
very involved in her church, a different church, not a Catholic church,
hmm.
and very, just an incredible nurse. And she had done all these wonderful things, and she had had extreme losses herself.
Mm,
Death, the tragic deaths of two children, death of two husbands that were just
mm,
horrific.
yeah.
And she had survived all that. And she, really was stalwart. And I admired very many things about her. But then
Hmm.
there was this.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and so we came to, in this narrative, you'll learn that we came to a great understanding, you know, and, you know, it all worked out.
Ultimately, though, when you just mentioned what she had gone through, the traumas in her life, and they were unresolved,
Hmm.
which manifested into behaviors that were definitely not
Yeah.
constructive. Um, there's a pattern I definitely see in certain conversations like these where unresolved traumas can manifest into all kinds of different behavioral problems. And in that case, that may have been abuse. In other cases, there's abuse, a substance abuse issue of the person who has been victimized. And I know that you had dealt with some of that as well. And it was your son who helped you get through that. So share a little bit about how you fell into that situation, I guess, as a coping mechanism, and how your son saved your life.
Yes. So as I proceeded with my, moving ahead and quickly getting my life in order with this as a single mother and working very hard and enjoying very much about it, I proceeded to have great success. And I sold 16 houses in 6 years that I was restoring with partners, one of whom was a husband that I had. Then we got a divorce, and at the same time, the whole bottom fell out of this restoration idea. Of course, at 27, I did not know that it was some kind of a, you know, what do you call it? I don't even know what to call it exactly. I just thought had a winning formula, and I wasn't speculating. And yippee,
Right.
I'm the one. But in fact, when all things went to 18 to 22% interest, and nothing could be sold no home is going to be sold at that rate. It's
Hmm.
just impossible. Um, I lost everything, and it was so. Here I am now divorced. I have this son who's 12, and I had fallen in love with someone new, and he was killed in a car accident. Okay, so whole bunch of bad
A
stuff
lot
all
of
at one
stuff.
time.
Yeah.
And so I had already experimented with cocaine. It was in the late 70s. And, I just started using it as a little crutch. And then it just became this covering, this cloak I had to have to do what I thought I had to do to move forward. And this went on. And I mean, this whole situation of coping through a chemical, I just see as a very bad solution. And it arrested me in that spot of, just denial, right?
Hmm.
And this denial went on for maybe 3 or 4 years, and it was really extreme. And it wasn't until my son came in one day when he was 15, and it was 11 at night. And he said to me, he moved the newspaper that I had on the table, and he said, "What's that?" And he pointed to this little folded up
Hmm.
packet. And so I had always said to myself, well, if anybody ever asks me, I have to tell them the truth, right? And then I'll quit. Okay, great. That's a great plan. Okay, so there I was. I had to say, and then I had to quit.
Hmm.
And it was very hard, but I realized that I had to do what I had to do in
Yeah.
order to make it through. And, I will say it took him maybe years to, if I get kind of all excited about something or something, he gives me the side eye.
He's like, Mom, we
Yeah,
good?
isn't that you?
Are we good? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, no, he's a caring son, obviously, but
Yes.
and that's been quite so. I mean, how long have you been sober at that point, or clean, I
Oh,
guess it was called?
let's see. I was 34, so, and I'm 72. Oh, a long
That's
time.
quite a long time, yes. I think he can stop giving you the side eye now. But I understand though, because addiction is one of those things that people sometimes do have setbacks, and you never know. And you bring up another good point too. In general, the treatment of traumas or depression with chemicals, that's pretty much where our society is. If you look at all the problems we're having with opiates and
I know.
how that just got out of control, and that was a pharmaceutical, an official pharmaceutical driven product from
Yeah.
organizations and companies, and we are definitely in a big rut with that.
Yes.
But well, I'm very happy that you were able to get through, and at the end, nature, where you found your solace, became the epicenter, if you will, of the work you create. So just talk a little bit about that.
All right. I'd love to. Yeah. So this decorative art, basically, this is high-end faux finishing, but people don't call it that who are in that realm because it's not false. It's not false finishing. It's
Mm,
real. And if you go to Europe and you see all these beautiful finishes that are there, that have been there for, hundreds and hundreds of years, that doesn't make it false.
right,
It's
right.
just, so there's Italian style marbleizing, there's marquetry, that's the inlaid wood, that's, a paint done with paint. And this is what I do and how I do it. And then there's layers and layers and sensitive application of paint that makes a room feel completely different than if it was just a plain paint.
Mm,
And sometimes it's so subtle. We have a technique we call emperor's new clothes because it's so delicate, but it just lets all of the color and the shape and the form of the millwork and everything
right.
glow. One
Mm,
of them is called milk and honey, and so you start with a richer kind of buttery undercolor, and then you put a creamy white over the top. But you can't tell how it's done at all. It's
mm.
just is glowing and looking at you, saying hello. I'm beautiful.
And that's a technique you developed, or is that just
Yes.
oh, okay.
Well, other people may try and do, and I like to share our ideas. I mean, we have had 10 companies form from who training with me, which
Mm,
is really, I'm really pleased about that. And I also myself trained next to other decorative artists on huge projects. You can't help but notice and look and see,
right, how
and
they're
then
doing things, and yeah.
yeah, and we formed actually a couple of guild-like approaches so that if this company is not that busy, I can take some of their people with me.
Mm,
We all just, not every company is willing to do that.
yeah,
I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying I don't know what the point is. Well, there's no secret, okay? How you move the brush and how you see color is how you make the solution. And
hmm,
so I'm me, and that I see color this way, so that's what my solutions will look like. That
right.
doesn't make it it's just that you don't have to compete, okay? Just be who you are and do your best, and you
Hmm.
will succeed, right? So that's how I worked that out. And I loved working. I mean, went from tiny little things that I was doing to all of a sudden working in the consul general's apartment in Paris,
Hmm.
or at the Rockefeller's apartment, 39 rooms, their former apartment on Park Avenue.
Wow.
I could go on and on. Uh,
It's amazing.
yeah. So it was really fun and hard and scary, and certainly not a thing that you need any drugs involved with.
Yeah, you probably are better off not doing drugs in that situation.
Really,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it's just really interesting, and I think one of the things that I want to say about following toward success was that even in spite of the most painful moments, if I would pray, which I really truly did, and look for not just an open door, but I mean a crack in a window. Is there a space? Is there
Mm,
something that's calling me?
mm.
That is there something more for me there? Shall I go? And of course, the theme if readers will see is that I'm always on the move, which I suppose is from way back in the day.
Yeah.
I'm a super motivated to move,
Hmm.
to stay out of any kind of danger. Even sitting here talking, okay, like I'm successful, I've done all these things. I'm glad I have the wall behind me, because if I didn't, I would feel a little anxious. I'd be exposed.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
and this book, I mean, the vulnerability aspect was so crazy. I mean, you'd think a person would know they're going to be exposing stuff when they're writing about their life, right?
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, great. But when it was about to come out, I have to call into my longtime therapist and go, "Yikes! I'm feeling so vulnerable."
Yeah,
You
because you have
know?
to revisit so many things, but I do know from an experience of writing myself in that way. I mean, I'm not published in that regard yet, but there is the cathartic aspect to it that does,
Yeah.
once you get past the fear, it actually is very, very therapeutic, wouldn't you say?
Yes. And I want to say, when I was first shopping around with the book and trying to figure out what to do, it was very nice. It had the scary stuff in the beginning, it had the perfect stuff at the end. And then this woman said, "Where's the messy part? You must have had some." I'm like, "Oh, shoot, I have to put the messy
Yeah,
part
you're
in
like, I tried to
there."
jump over that,
Yeah,
but
did you notice?
yeah, but that's where the pulp is, right? That's where,
Yeah.
and actually, that's where the audience connects, because I think from what I last remember reading, statistics were 25 million plus Americans, for example, are battling some form of substance abuse or addiction issues. So that's a lot of people who would really probably benefit from reading the messy parts of someone else who
Yeah.
survived it and got through it. So ultimately, I guess you did put the messy parts back in.
Yes. Oh, yes. I had to, but that actually took a couple years.
Mm.
Even talking about it now is okay, but when writing it and stuff, I would really have to put it away for a little while, and you know, it's hard work. So when my son noticed this issue and brought it to my attention, and I did my hard work of just staying still, I realized that I'd been getting hints from people. A woman had suggested, and while I was shopping for some body oil at a beautiful little hippie place, that I get this book, "You Can Heal Your Life."
Mm.
And my answer was, "You think my whole life is sick?" Obviously I was very not well.
Defensive,
And
yeah.
yes, and I stomped off. But I had also, from the corner of my eye, seen this other book that said was called Creative Visualization. So a few days later, prior to ever trying to quit drugs, I went back and I bought those two books: Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, and Shakti Gawain, Creative Visualization. And I put them
Mm.
on my nightstand, but that didn't make any change for me.
Right.
After laying there in bed for those 3 weeks, I finally started reading these books. And it was with the help of these books and the desperate reality that I wasn't getting anywhere the way I was going before, and my own prayer and the support of my son, that I began to use these affirmations and began to see a change. And this is when, like I said, it was fun. I found it very hard to say I am worthy, and I knew that was a serious sign right there. And
Mhm.
that's the thing. I mean, whether I mean, certainly when prior to this, as a child and all through my life, I was looking for signs and used signs, and I relied upon them from nature. So in my decorative artwork and my historic restoration work, the question was always, not what is wrong with this, but what is wanted. If you go around thinking about what is wrong, like I'm morose because of my fiance has died, and I'm a failure because my business has failed, you will maybe get some answers, but I don't really see that as a very positive way to go.
Right.
So, truly lifting out of the cocaine use and looking at the world around and seeing a rose just sitting there looking at me saying, hello, I've been waiting for you to notice me again, right?
Mhm.
Everything became alive. And when it comes alive and you begin to think about what is wanted rather than what is wrong, you just can get a really direct channel to
Yeah.
where you want to go.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you, Elisa Stancil Levine, a decorative artist, once again, who is also an author with her new memoir, This or Something Better. And this has been a really enlightening conversation. So I appreciate you being here with me on Motivational Mondays today.
Thank you so much, Corey. It was thrilling for me. Thrilling.